Bit of advice, if you guys happen to find yourselves to be a washed up, middle-aged, drug and alcohol addicted boxer in Delta region, Mississippi, and you owe an enormous debt to a unscrupulous gangster matriarch who's going to put you in a bare knuckle death match, only to discover you may or may not have a daughter who's a tattooed woman at a roving carnival. Bit of advice, maybe just walk away. Hey guys, so that is The Fighter. We're going to talk about that in a second. Today I'm doing thrillers. Really excited to talk about three different titles I really just kind of happened upon. I wanted to bring to your attention. All three of them ended up really good. I'm not the biggest expert on thrillers, so any of you super fans out there, tell me what you think. But after reading all three of these, what I wanted to say is, on the surface, all three of the books we're going to talk about today, on the surface, they're all pretty straightforward, but there's so much going on. First up, Under the Harrow by Flynn. Now, this is not a new book. This is what we call a gem in the stack. We talk about books that are older than 1 or 2 years old. This takes us back to 2016. I think of context with this book back when the Gone Girl, Girl on the Train craze was going on. You know, publishers rushed a lot of things to print to kind of just get more readers with like-minded thrillers in their hands to sell more books. And, you know, as a librarian, we see these trends kind of come and go, and that's fine. But, you know, when they do this, a lot of really subpar stuff can come out in that second and third wave of copycat books. And not is this a copycat by any means. I think Under the Harrow got lost in that mix of similar titles to Girl on the Train and Gone Girl. And I hadn't heard of it. Now, Flynn, she has another book already out, so do check that out. But so I read this one. It's a very tight, short, barely 200 pages long. A woman goes to visit her sister, and she finds her sister dead. Less than a whodunit. It's very realistic about how, you know, for those of you who are true crime fans, an investigation will unfold, and detectives in good faith are trying their best. The protagonist, she doesn't have much faith in the detectives, so she starts taking things on her own, and there's just not a lot of answers. There's not a lot of evidence, and the book is great about kind of dealing with that feeling, the feeling of mourning and grief. Really confident in its use of tense and pivoting back towards things in the past with the sister. You do have to pay close attention in this one. It's not arty by any means in the prose or the style, but pay close attention to details and the comings and goings. I know I read online some readers were confused by the constant telescoping back and forth between the present and the past. I found it all really, really great, like watching a superb television show, just getting stressed out about trying who killed this woman. Yeah. Flynn. Okay, my second one, I already talked about a little bit, The Fighter. Now, maybe this one isn't so much a thriller. It's more what you call hard-boiled. I'm going to group it in here anyways. Michael Farris Smith. Now, his literary aspirations definitely transcend, more the airport thriller kind of book, and he's doing something different here. And at the same time, it really reminds me of like a old-timey Hollywood script. He's a down and out boxer. He's over the hill in age, so to speak, and he really doesn't have any fight left in him. He has a cash payment that he's going to take to this woman called Big Mama. She's a gangster down there in Mississippi, and he's going to pay off his debt and walk away. And that night that he's on his way to deliver the cash, his pickup gets hijacked, and he's in a crash with the person hijacking the truck, and it's just trouble all around. Super gritty. If you pour a little glass of whiskey when you read this, put on some raw Delta blues kind of music, some hill country blues. Very violent, graphic, again, hard-boiled. He's a tough guy. He's suffering a lot. At one point, he's like holed up in a motel, just drinking and dreading that he has to go and do this fight for reasons that you'll read about. At first, all of this made me a little bit like, oh, this is just, is it a cliche, or is this like a 1930s movie with, he meets these carnies. By the end, I was utterly just won over by Smith. A lot of humanity in the book, ratcheting up the tension. I think it'll surprise you. I'd like to see more people turn on to Michael Farris Smith. Awesome down south kind of read. Okay, lastly, third book, and again, like I said, all three books today, on their surface, some people might read them and it's like, okay, that was a thriller, that was kind of a hard-boiled story about a boxer, but a lot of subtext going on, and in The Keeper, just really outstanding execution. Jessica Moore is from 2020, so this is a 2021. A woman is found dead. The police rule it a suicide, but she is a former employee, the dead woman. She's a former employee of a women's shelter, a refuge from domestic violence. And the book gets into the characters at the refuge in just an awesome way, learning about this kind of ensemble cast of characters of the women in the refuge. And they don't know for sure forensically, but they know in their hearts this was no suicide. They've seen all the red flags before. The police, to Jessica Moore's credit, she writes some chapters from the head detective's perspective, and he's not a bad detective, but there's just things he doesn't understand. He's not culturally up to speed. He's not aware of like rampant misogyny, rape culture. At one point, there's a online troll that keeps sending horrible messages to the manager of the women's shelter. And the entire time, this isn't a spoiler, throughout the book, the police are just dismissive of it, that they're, oh, well, that's not really related to anything. That's someone on the internet, just being weird and grouchy. And a great thriller about the frustrations of investigative work, different distinctions between, like, cultural distinctions between men, women, the police, and the victims. And gosh, it does follow the chapters with the protagonist and her relationship with a man in the past. And he's a complete creep, total psycho, red flags everywhere. And Moore really plays around with, in a way, it's not a whodunit, because there's things you have a strong hunch about, but at the same time, it's just really stressful, a really difficult book. It's domestic violence. There's rape in the book. It's all done very well and tastefully, but just, fair warning to everyone, it is a very difficult read. And at the same time, I think really brave, really cool. Moore took this on put it into kind of a digestible thriller format with so much to think about. So I strongly recommend The Keeper by Jessica Moore. So that was Thrillers. Let me know what you guys are reading, and read more.
Read more.